Governor Jared Polis, it's great to see you. Jared Polis is an entrepreneur and philanthropist serving as the 43rd governor of Colorado since January of 2019. As a member of the Democratic Party, he served one term as a member of the Colorado State Board of Education from 2001 to 2007, and 5 terms in the U.S. Congress as a representative from Colorado's 2nd Congressional District from 2009 to 2019. He was elected governor in 2018, defeating Walker Stapleton. Thank you, Governor, for joining us today. We are very anxious to hear from you.
Steve, thank you, and thank you to everyone for having me here. You know, I addressed the summit last year, and it just really was surprised. You know, how much has changed since last year. First of all, we're here virtually instead of in person. But more importantly, Coloradans have faced such an enormous share of challenges over the last 11 months. I don't think any of us could have imagined when we got together last year what the ensuing year would entail. The global pandemic, the 3 worst wildfires in the history of our state, including devastating wildfires in northern Colorado, a economic recession, over 2,000 Coloradans who've lost their lives due to the pandemic, and of course two for the fire, at least, in Estes Park. Look, well, a lot has changed. The key issues that Coloradans care about are really more important now than ever before. And as we build back stronger, Northern Colorado and the Northern Colorado Legislative Alliance are really positioned to play a critical role in our recovery. Northern Colorado is a driver in our state's economy, home to critical sectors, diverse sectors, tourism, energy, advanced manufacturing, agriculture, ranching, higher ed, really a robust economic diversification in northern Colorado. And we know that some industries have been affected more than others by the pandemic and the global recession. Industries like tourism have been impacted by this pandemic, energy prices. We look forward to really building back stronger in the hard-hit sectors. Now, advanced manufacturing and agriculture are key parts of our economy that have been a bit more stable, not without supply chain issues, of course, and frustrations. But we really believe that demand remains strong and that some of these key sectors will help lead us out of the recession in northern Colorado and across our state. Last week, I released my fiscal budget for the next year, 2021-2022, which really focuses on how we can help Coloradans get back to work, recover equitably and more quickly, and invest in our future for lasting benefits. So in addition to restoring the painful cuts that were made in the spring and saving for Colorado's future by restoring our reserves to historic highs, we're including a one-time stimulus package with one-time investments that help Coloradans get back to work, invest in our infrastructure, transportation, competitiveness as a state. And to help those hardest hit by the pandemic, the stimulus includes items like one that we've already worked with the legislature to do, which is a direct payment of $375 to 435,000 hardworking Coloradans that will hit their accounts in the next few weeks. They don't need to apply; they'll simply get it. We're also proposing $105 million in tax relief and direct aid for restaurants and bars and businesses that are hit by capacity restrictions. To build our economy back even stronger than before, we're including $220 million to create jobs and invest in shovel-ready public works and infrastructure projects, $160 million to invest in broadband to enable business and education and healthcare, $140 million to invest in workforce and incentivize businesses to grow in Colorado, and $200 million that we plan to work with Republicans and the Democrats in the legislature to allocate. In our budget, we also recognize the importance of higher education. That's why we restored many of the cuts, capped tuition increases to 3%, and also allocated money to increase the operational efficiency of our institutions of higher education. But look, supporting transportation and infrastructure is not only an important way to stimulate the economy, but it also is truly important for our state's competitiveness. And you've all done long time advocacy on this, but it's to better connect and support hubs of economic activity and recreation across our state, really to improve our quality of life, improve our competitiveness, reduce time that is lost in traffic, increase productivity, better air quality. Our budget includes $220 million now to invest in jobs. In addition, we are developing a strategic pipeline of projects to really make sure that we are able to get those shovel-ready funds out the door. We're also keeping our commitment to finish the construction of I-25 North express lanes between Berthoud and Fort Collins on schedule. Even as the economic conditions shift, that commitment from us remains. Northern Colorado is a really important economic hub for our state. This year's wildfires, the economic challenges as people were forced from homes, the psychological challenges amidst the pandemic. We also are having an extreme drought, as you know, statewide, and we've set aside $78 million in our budget for fire prevention, response, and recovery efforts. This is very important for the entire state. We're currently working on feedback on that aspect as well. Now, I want to take a few minutes. What would any discussion be without discussing COVID, which is certainly the crisis of the moment? Our economic recovery really depends on us doing better keeping the coronavirus rates down. And we're seeing an alarming increase in case numbers and hospitalizations. We've already passed the hospitalization levels that we saw in March and April. Over 1,000 Coloradans are currently hospitalized from, hold on. Over 1,000 Coloradans are currently hospitalized with COVID-19 in our state. And for the month of November, we're strongly encouraging Coloradans to only interact with people in your own household. Just delay your plans with others who aren't in your household to avoid further transmission. It is more dangerous now than it was in March and April in Colorado. Highest rates we've ever had. 1 in 100 people are currently contagious with the deadly virus. Over 1,000 Coloradans are currently hospitalized. And look, we all are tired of the virus, but the virus is not tired of us. And people are just getting complacent. As we approach the winter months, there's colder weather, there's holiday travel, there's flu season. We must do more as a nation, as a state, as a local community, in your individual households to simply change course. And we're going to need help from all of you to get the word out about the seriousness of the virus in our state and remind people that we have to get back to what we know works. We know how to stop this thing. We just need the resolve to do it. Wear a mask, avoid social interactions with people outside your household, physically distance at least 6-8 feet, even if you're wearing a mask when you're talking to folks, wash your hands with soap frequently. These are simple things, but we're not doing well enough, and our economy will suffer. We'll have unnecessary loss of life, and it'll be harder for Coloradans if we don't act now. Our actions impact everyone we come into contact with, our neighbors, our parents, our children, our friends, our coworkers. Their lives and your own life are truly in our hands. So look, we faced a lot this year, but I know that together we can get through it and build back even stronger than before. Thank you to the strong partnership that we have with the Northern Colorado Legislative Alliance for having me today. Thank you for your work to support Coloradans, and I look forward to working together in the months and years ahead. Thank you. Steve, you're on mute again. There you go.
May we ask you a couple of questions?
Sure, we have a couple of minutes.
Okay, very good. First, I want to tell you that I think the governor's office, you obviously have been very wise and measured in how you responded to the coronavirus. I think you've done a really very nice job. The other thing I want to tell you is that I like seeing your request for a 10% increase in reserve, or an increase in reserves to 10%. It's something that I've long advocated. I was on the Joint Budget Committee in 1999 and 2000, and we weren't thinking about reserves then because the economy was so lively that our problem was we had way too much money. But I think that the higher level of reserves is great. My question is, I've looked at a little bit of your budget, and I'm a little bit concerned about a lot of really positive things regarding your plan of action. How are we going to do all of it from a fiscal standpoint and a revenue standpoint?
Well, the voters helped with that, Steve. The voters passed Proposition B, and I think this group was part of you guys supported that, right? I think you were part of that coalition. The chambers were, and I think this group was. But in any event, not only does that avert a tax increase on businesses, very important now, this will net an additional few hundred million to the state and more over time. Also, Proposition EE passed overwhelmingly. That was like 67% of the vote. And for the next 2 years, that helps fund our schools and rental assistance and other programs before it goes to preschool. So we have a one-time carry forward, Steve, which is the funds for the stimulus are essentially from a one-time carry forward. And then you're right, and this is why the reserve is so important. Things are in many ways more challenging for 22-23 than they are for 21-22, and so it's really important that if we are restoring cuts, that we don't just go up and down and up and down. We want to restore those cuts to our most, education, other important programs, but we want to be able to maintain that over the next few years because this recovery doesn't happen overnight. And so I think it's important to be, sort of prudent, thoughtful in the budget, and it's a good time to have a record reserve of we propose 10%.
There's Moody's a couple of years ago suggested that Colorado ought to have reserves at 14% for on the low end and 26% on the high end of general fund reserves. Just as a point of information.
Yeah, and for folks who aren't as in the weeds on the call, historically we've been in the 7 to 8% range, at least the last few years. I don't know, so those, just so you are hearing on the call. So, and we went down. We spent appropriately, by the way, when the coronavirus hit. We spent down some of those reserves to get through it. I think we went to a low of 2.8% briefly.
0.86, I think. Yeah.
Yes, and then now we're proposing take it back up to 10.
So last question. I didn't hear in your comments a recommendation for a specific general fund appropriation for transportation. Any thought of doing that?
Well, so two things on that. One is we have the one-time stimulus transportation piece. It's 220 for infrastructure. I think it's 160 for kind of roads and bridges. The others are other kinds of infrastructure, including working with local municipal governments for downtown improvements and state parks. What I think is an enormous opportunity this legislative session is for Republicans and Democrats to work together on modernizing transportation funding going forward. And I think it's a very exciting way that we can work to really address the need. There's no 1 year amount that can do it, Steve, as you know, that's realistic. It's not about a 1 year investment. I mean, it's a good faith effort and it's important to do because you just have to keep, there's a state of repair, you have to keep roads in. But this is really a systemic funding issue and one that I really think the Democrats and Republicans can address working together.
I think that we proposed a bond issue in the 2015 session that failed. We think that's still a good idea. We think it was a great idea when it passed in the year 2000 and built multiple pieces of highway infrastructure around the state.
And there's some room in the COPS, the certificates of participation. There's still some room in that for us. We're pending the kind of where the financial markets go, but there's still a few $100 million of room for that to occur in the next year as well.
Well, we'd love to talk to you about a bond issue, but in short, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. I think it's who has obviously a great history in your business career. You're a businessman, you have business sense, and that's good for business organizations like the Level and Greeley and Fort Collins Chambers and our two economic development organizations. So thank you for being here.
Thank you all for your thoughtful work, and we'll look forward to engaging with you on transportation and infrastructure and the other issues that are important to building Colorado back stronger. Thank you.
We're not going anywhere, that's for sure. It's time for us to bring our Regional Issues Summit to a close. First, today's event is only possible because of the strong support of our sponsors. They made it possible for us to all attend this at no cost. We want to thank Elevations Credit Union, UC Health, BizWest, Columbine Health Systems, Officescapes, Woodward, Alpha Graphics, Campus Credit Union, Northern Engineering, Signorama, and Total Facility Care. Thank you as well to all of our speakers today. And don't know about all of you. I don't know about all of you, but I'm walking away with a lot of new insight. All the materials for today, including the video, will be available on the NCLA and the Fort Collins Area Chamber of Commerce website. Thank you and have a great day.